Hello, this is Gail with Beaded Jewelry Diva, and today we have our bead soup beading project. This is a barrette that I've made with my bead soup, and that bead soup video, I'll go ahead and put a link to it. And this is what today's project is going to be. I will teach you how to make this whole thing from soup to nuts, so to speak. So we'll do that, and then I have a couple of other projects that I made, and I will talk to you about what I did with these and what I did differently with these. Also in this video you're going to see some helpful hints for when things go wrong. You'll see me go wrong plenty, but how to get yourself out of things when things go wrong too. So anyway, if you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let's see what we need to make this project. Alright, to make this project, we'll need the following. I have my bead soup that I made in one of the other videos, and I'll put the link to that one. I've also added to my bead soup. I've added some tilas and some drop beads and some other miscellaneous things. So don't think that you just have to start off with only your bead soup. You can add things to it. I've got a size 11 needle. I've got some E6000 glue. I am using KO thread today in kind of a sand color or beige color. I hope you'll be able to see okay for contrast and everything when I do this, but I didn't want to use white fireline and I didn't want to use black fireline with all these beads. I have my barrette finding, so I've got that. I've got a piece of lacy stiff stuff. Now you can use stiffened felt or whatever if you can't find the lacy stiff stuff. But I've cut it to, let me see, it's about 7/8 by 3.5 inches, or in millimeters, that's about 21 millimeters by about 103 millimeters. So I've got that, and that's going to end up fitting over the barrette, and I just want to give myself a little bit of extra leeway. Then I've also got another piece of ultra suede, and this is going to be my final backing. So this is the foundation, this is my final backing, and it's going to end up fitting over it. Now I cut it a little bit bigger than what I need for my foundation because I may need it to slide around a little bit, and you'll see why a little bit later. So this is what I have to start with, and speaking of which, let's go ahead and get started. I've started off by threading my needle. I'll get that out. And I put a knot at the end of my needle now, or the end of my thread. Now I am starting off with a shorter piece of thread than I would normally use for demonstration purposes. But normally I would use about 2 yards or so of thread. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick a spot, any spot. And I just make a couple of extra little stitches just because I do. So that's just extra security. Alright, so this is bead embroidery. What do? You could, if you wanted to, take a Sharpie marker or something like that and draw some sort of design on this. Me, I'm a freeform kind of gal, so what I do is I just pick up some beads and go with the flow. Usually when I start off, I will start off with a smaller bead. I mean, by smaller I mean size 8 or maybe an 11. Generally don't start with a 15, but I could. There are very few rules when it comes to bead embroidery, and some people would say that there are no rules, and I'll go with either way. So you can see that I've just strung on some 4 beads, and I'm just going to go down and put my needle down through. And I do have a Bead Embroidery 101 class, so you can refer back to that for any general, introduction to bead embroidery. Now what I'm doing, if you can see here, I've come up a little bit over to the side of this pink bead. Now I'm going to slide my needle into the pink bead, and what that is going to do is it's going to make it take a little bit of a jog up to the top. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to snake my set of beads. And to do that, let's pick a few more beads, if I can find any. Now, that's the one wonderful or bad thing about all these beads in here. It's like, okay, I've got so much eye candy. What the heck do I pick up? Well, sometimes I just go and, scoop whatever it is I scoop up. Okay, so I've got some more. And in this particular case, you can see that I've got the beads on. And I'm going to go in a little bit in front of, or not quite to the end of this bead, because I'm going to further make the bead snake by coming up. Let's put a little bit more. I'm coming up, as you can see, a fair amount to the side of this set of pink beads. So I'm going to put my needle through this second of the pink beads, pull it on through, straighten it out, pull it tight, and you can see that my beads are making kind of a jog. You can see now that I've snaked a bit some, so it's time to start adding some other kinds of beads. So you see that I'm coming out of this one. I'm going to go ahead and go back down. And my next stitch type, I guess you'd want to call it, I'm coming up a little bit a ways from one of the pink beads, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to go ahead and do what a stitch stop bead. So what I've got is I've got this short cube, and I'm going to pick up a size 11 seed bead. Let's see if that's going to work. As soon as I can find one, there we go. Picked up the size 11 seed bead, and I'm going back down through the same bead. So I'm skipping over the size 11 that I just put on, and I'm going back down, and it's going to act as a stop bead. Now here's a tip. If you find that your stop bead kind of ends up with the hole facing up like that, here's a tip. Just put your needle through and then pull on the thread, and that will go ahead and force the bead to sit up nice and pretty. So we've got that kind of stop stitch. Now let's show another kind. This particular one I like to use size 15s for. So let me see if I can find some 15s. Here's one, and I'm sure I can find another somewhere. There we go. So I've got 3 15s. You can see that I'm coming out right here, and I'm going to put my needle down just a little ways away. So you can see that thread's coming out here, my needle's going down just a little ways away, and this makes like a little picot. And that's nice to use sometimes for just kind of filling in. If you've got a lot of space and you don't know what to do with it, and you just don't want to do regular stuff, I've got 3 more on here. And do it that way. It also gives it a little bit more texture. So we've got those 2. What other kinds of stitches can we do? Well, one of the ones that I like, and I'm still going to, actually I think I'm going to go over to this side. So I'm over on this side now. I've got my needle coming up through, and I'm going to find some of my drop beads. So I've got 3 of the drop beads, and you can see these are the little Magatama drops. I've got these, slide them on down, and then I'm going to do somewhat similar. I'm just going to go ahead and poke it down fairly close to that, to where I brought the thread out, and it gives me a nice little line. Now you can see that I've got a little bit of texture to it because I've got the ones on the ends are laying down flatter and the ones in the middle is a little bit higher. Usually when I do things like this, I will go ahead and go back through them a second time. And you really should have done that, or I really should have done that with this one bead over here, but I didn't. I'm sorry, I just shook the camera. So I've got it coming through again, and I'm just going to put it down through the beading foundation again. I've done a bit more, as you can see. And it's about this time that I'm really close to the end that I want to be done. You know what that's like. What I want to show you now are a few more ideas for beads to fill up space when you don't feel like beading a whole lot more, and some troubleshooting and handling the edges. And this time I'm picking up something that I haven't used in a long time. Now these are peanut beads. I bought these like a gazillion years ago, have never used them. And this turned out to be the perfect thing. I just picked up 3 of them and I put my thread back down through fairly close to where I came up, kind of like a picot. And look how nice that makes it. I want to show you some other beads that I used. You can see this one. This is, let me see if I can find what this one was. It's a 2-hole bead, and I thought it was kind of neat. It's you know, pyramid shaped, and I thought that might be rather interesting to have for. It's not exactly a focal point, but it's a something interesting to look at. Now, some other stitches that I used, or some other bead types I used, I used some of these dragon scale beads. So, a couple of dragon scales. Usually I like to work in 3s, and I just about made a real interesting mistake. I almost ended up putting my dragon beads on the other side of my work. How about I come up through, and let's see about putting my dragon scales right about here. So I've come up through, and then I will just go ahead and pick up the 2 dragon beads, dragon scale, and put them down into the fabric, or into the beading foundation. And you end up with something like this. And you can see that I did like 3 of them here, and I did another 3 of them here. So it doesn't use up a lot of space, not unlike these guys. These guys filled up a lot of space quickly. I use a crystal. Now this one is, I believe, a 4mm fire polished. So I'm going to just put it right here. Now, one thing you need to watch for, you can see that I've got this pretty close to the edge. And I'm kind of living a little on the dangerous side doing that, because by the time it comes time to do our finishing on the edging, we want to make sure that we're not going to be hitting this. So this time I'm going to take some other kinds of drops that I happen to find. Come on. Come on, little drop. We've got a home for you. So, put our drops in. Now, something with these drops, you can see that they are color lines. So they have the pink down here and then they're clear up here. Now that can cause a little bit of an issue because now all of a sudden you're just seeing white instead of pink. Here's what I do to solve that. So I'm coming up, so I'm staying a little bit away from the edge, and I'm coming up. Now I'm going to pick up some pink beads. So it doesn't really matter what color of pink, just some pink. And I had that off screen. Oh well. Now I'm going to take these and then just kind of make a half circle around these guys like this. So you see that pushed these up, and now they look pink because they're reflecting the color of the pink underneath them. Any other beads that I can think of? Well, we also have, and I wish I could put the seashell in. I tried to put the seashell in and it just didn't work. Mainly because I couldn't get my needle through the seashell. You've got the hex beads. This is like a size 8 hex. And that uses up a fair amount of space. All right, and let's see. We'll go back to this side. Now, when it comes to edging, I like to keep my needle and thread a little bit away from the edge because I'm going to be coming back later and I'm going to be doing edge stitching along here. And when I do that, I don't want to have any beads in the way because I've done that before where I've put really big beads and I've stitched it really close and it makes it very difficult to work through them. Not that it can't be done, just that it's not fun to get around. So what I try to do is I generally, with the exception of what you saw me do over here before, I generally like to stick with size 11s and size 15s along the edges. Okay, when it comes to corners, I do not want to put my needle into the corner. That's going to give me problems later on when I'm doing my edging. So what I've done is I've strung on 3 size 11s. And you can see that my thread is coming out here between this darker bead and this pink bead. And I'm going to put my needle back in on this side of the pink bead. This makes an arc around that. I am not putting my needle into this corner, so that saves the corner for later. And I've got my arc around. So that's what the arc looks like. And that is how I like to handle corners whenever possible. It isn't always possible, but whenever I can, I like to handle corners that way. Next up is putting on the barrette finding. So I've got my barrette finding and I've got my trusty E6000 glue. And first thing I'm going to do is, since my barrette finding has a solid back, I'm just going to smear some glue on it. So it doesn't have to be too terribly pretty. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to try to put it in about the middle of this piece of ultra suede. Doesn't have to be perfect. You just don't want it seriously skewed to one side or the other. Like I wouldn't want it just all down at one end or up at one side. I'm trying to keep it somewhat in the middle because this is going to end up having to go over, or this is going to end up going over it, and I want to make sure that I am going to have enough of the ultra suede on each side. So going to let this dry, and then we're going to come back and I'll show you what else I do to secure this, because one thing that you don't want to do is just rely on the E6000 glue. It's a great glue, but I don't trust it. Time to go ahead and assemble the backing, or finish assembling the backing. So what I've got is this, and my glue's dried. Now what I've switched over to Fireline, and I really do seriously suggest Fireline for this. You don't have to, but it handles fraying a whole lot better than anything else. What I've got, this part of the backing is going to go up against my beadwork. So I'm going to come in from the back, and I'm going to go into that hole in the center, come up through, and then I'm going to put a stitch on the very edge of that silver part. So let's see. Hopefully you can see that. Then I'm going to come in, I'm going to put in more stitches. I would suggest at least 5. I tend to put in as many as I think I can get away with, usually somewhere in the 7 to 10 range. I'll keep putting those in. This side I've already done, and you can see I've put in a whole bunch of stitches. So I'm going to do the same thing for this side that I did for this side. We'll come back and we'll do the final assembly of our wonderful barrette. Now it's time to go ahead and put these two together. And the tricky part is you want this barrette finding to be about the middle of your beadwork. So how do we work that? First thing I do is I'm going to put some more glue to hold on to kind of make it so that these go together, and that way until we get the lining stitched or until we get with the edging stitch, this will hold everything on. So what I'm doing is I'm going down the backing. So you can see that I'm just basically going down the spine. Put the glue away, then I'm going to take my beadwork and I'm going to just place it on at first. I'm going to end up moving it because I'm not going to get it perfect first shot out. So you can see what I'm trying to do, and it's probably easier to see this from the back, is I'm trying to get this roughly in the middle. So if I fold back the edges of the ultra suede, I can see that I've got a little bit more space up here than I do down here. So I'm just gently going to kind of wiggle the beadwork. So that looks better. Then I'm going to check on each side. Looks like this side has a little bit more, so I'm going to move it. And I'm moving it very, very gently. So that's about right. So now I'm going to look at it like this. Does it look about the way I want it to? Yes, it does. For my edging beads, I decided to go with like a frosted peachy pink, and it's actually called matte peachy pink. And this is going to be my base. Now I've done this in a size 8. And then I've got some gold metallic, and these are permanently galvanized gold. And these are a size 11, and I'm going to use these for my picot. Now, why am I using a size 8? One of the reasons is because in the other examples that I have for you, I used a size 11. So I wanted to give you an idea of what it looked like with a different size seed bead. Also, like I said before, I'm getting kind of tired, so I figured, well, these size 8s will make this go a whole lot faster. And get as close to the edge of the beadwork as you can without cutting the beads. After all the trouble you took to put the beads on, you don't want to have them falling off. So there I've got the first part. And then this side is going to be a little bit more difficult because you're going to need to hold on to this side really well. The reason being is you don't want this piece to slip as you're cutting it and end up with not enough of the ultra suede on this side. So I'm going to hold it like this. And again, I'm trying to cut as close as I can to the beading foundation and the beadwork. I'm going to do a bridge stitch edging. I have moved back to my KO thread in this sand beige or whatever it is color, because that's going to go real well with my peachy pink, I'll say that right, size 8s. When I do this, I do not start on a corner. The reason that I don't start on a corner is because the first few stitches are usually a little on the wonky-ish side, and I don't want it really obvious. Now, if I decide that I have a topper to the bottom of this, and that partially depends on, I guess, which side your clasp is on. I'm going to say that this is going to be my bottom, this is going to be my top. I'm going to go ahead and start up here. I've already knotted my thread. I'm going into the back of the foundation, and I'm just coming up through the beadwork because all I'm doing is stitching it down. And by the way, I have about 6 feet or so of thread. So now try not to have the thread showing, obviously, but what we want to do is come back to the edge, making sure that you have not stitched your ultra straight yet. So I'm going to come up through the top of an edge. So I want to get pretty close to the final edge. So okay, you can see how close I am to the edge. So pull that through. Make sure you don't get everything. Now you can see I had an error on this side, and this is actually good. I didn't mean to do it, but this is good. You see, I accidentally caught the ultra suede when I was putting it through. Don't want that to happen. Not at this step of the game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unthread, as much as I hate to, and I'm going to come back and join you again when I've got this part fixed. Alright, so I'm back at the edge. What I've done is I've strung on 3 beads. I've strung on 2 of the peachy pink, 1, and in between that I have one of the gold. So I'm going to come up, my thread is coming out right here. I'm going to move over about a size 8 seed bead away, and I'm going to go back through the ultra suede this time on purpose. So I'm going to pull them up. Now they're going to look a little wonky at first, and that's the nature of the beast when you're talking about brick stitch. But my thread's coming out the back. I want to come up through just the peachy pink bead, just the matte bead. I do not want to go up through the gold bead. So pull it. Try not to get tangled. You don't want to know how many retakes I've had to do. Today has been a tangle day. Alright, so this is what it looks like. Don't worry about this one looking a little wonky. That's okay at first. I'm going to pick up a gold, one of the gold beads, and then another one of the size 8s. So remember, the gold is a size 11. Then I'm going to come through about another size 8 seed bead away. Go through both pieces of material, the foundation and the ultra suede backing. And I do try to get it close to the edge as I can. I'm not always perfect on that, but I do try to get it pretty close. So that's the way it looks so far. Flip it to the back. Then I'm going to run my needle up through the bottom of the size 8. And again, attempt not to tangle. So that's what it looks like so far. So you can see that the golds are going to be a picot. Let's do one more, then I will go ahead and bead until we get to an edge, and then I will show you what to do for edges. So one more. We have the size 11, then we have the size 8, about a size 8 seed bead apart. And now you know why I don't like to have a large bead near the edge when I can avoid it, is because it's difficult to put your needle in where you need to go sometimes. So it looks like this. Flip over to the back, run your needle up through that size 8, and you are ready for your next stitch. Okay, I've gotten a lot of it done, so you can see that I've gone around quite a bit. Now I'm at this corner, so I want to show you what I'm doing. So I've got one more bead that I can put on this corner, and now you know why I want to preserve the absolute corners. You know, that's why I do all those rounding techniques or arcing techniques, because I want to make sure that I have a really good crisp corner, I guess is the way to do it, or as crisp as you can get. Anyway, this is the way it looks. Now I'm going to put on the size 11 and the size 8, just like normal. And I'm going to come up as close as I can to this other bead. So you can see how close it is. Pull it up through. And this helps to make the corner crisper. So you can see the corners, this one didn't turn out as well as I would like. And actually the beads have moved around a bit. But the whole idea is to try to keep the corners somewhat crisp. This is probably about the best one I've done so far. All right, now let me show you something that can happen and how to get around it. All right, I'm going about my business beading. And, you know, it's as usual. And by the way, I try to put in this first bead after the corner bead a little closer than usual. And that's just to help keep this corner bead in its place. All right, something that happens to me a fair amount is I've got my bead and I'm not paying enough attention, and maybe I'm getting frustrated because of this bead in the way or whatever. So when I pull it through, I see that I've got kind of a space. See that space in between those? Well, especially at this part of the game, I really don't want to undo this, so here's a way around it. Take your next set of bead, your gold in your size 8, and push it closer than you normally would. So you want them really close together. What this does is it will push the first bead kind of back into place. So you can see I don't have that space anymore. Now the same thing can work in reverse. Like if I think that these are like too close together, I can take these and I can put it just a hair's further apart than I normally would. And make sure when you do this, don't get your picot bead. And then I can pull up or I can pull away. In this particular case, I'm just going to leave it as is. Okay, I'm pretty much back to where I started. So this one right here is the first bead that I put on. I've got on one of my gold size 11s. I am going to go down into this bead. So going down and into that size 8. I'm going to go through just like I normally would, through both the foundation and the backing. Pull it up, and you can tell which one needs it because this is the only one that's kind of wonky-ish looking. So you pull that tight. And there you've joined up your front to your back. Now the final thing for me to be would to go through this next picot bead. Then I go down into the next size 8. And then I am going to bury it in my bead. Ta-da! Here it is in all its glory. So you can see I've got it all stitched up. I've got my edging on. So let's take a little bit closer look at it again. You can see that I have that pyramid bead. That's a 2-hole pyramid bead. You can see that I have some of the dragon scales. I have a bunch of different drop beads in different sizes. I have a little fringe type bead there. So we also have cubes, size 11s, 8s, 15s, and just a whole bunch of fun stuff on this one. So this is our pink bead soup. Let's take a look at a couple of other examples that I have for you. This one is kind of a gradient. So I started off with purple and I kind of migrated through the blues and the greens, and I have a little bit of golds on this side. But what I used on this one is I had some green of the 2-hole triangle beads, and I wanted to see if I could use those. So I put those in, and I'm going to have to try something else with these because I think it makes it like a cool dinosaur-ish look. So I'm going to have to think of something, project for that. But you can see that I also used gemstone chips, and you know, I just had fun with this. Now this is a very simple edging on this one. It is just size 11 brick stitch, so that's all it is. No further embellishments. And as you can tell, I didn't get quite even or anything on this one on the back of the center, but to be real honest, no one's going to notice. They're just going to be looking at this. Okay, so there's the pink and there's the blue, and here is my purple bead soup. So what I did is I actually took some of my pink bead soup, poured it out on the table, and then just started adding purples to it. Purples and wines and all manner of things. So you can see I have the cubes. I have this big flat pearl type bead. And some more drops and some fire polished, larger fire polished. So I've got a multitude of different things. I even have some super unos in here. Now as far as the stitching goes, let's see if we can get up close for this. What I did is I have a size 11 and then 3 size 15s and then another size 11. And I know it's kind of hard to tell on this one because they're all metallic. But what I did is I have a 3 bead picot. So I started off with an 11 for the base, then I added 3 15s, and then I added the 11. So the difference in between these two is this one would have been the same if I had put 3 of the gold seed beads on here. So that's basically what I did with this one. So I thought it made for a kind of an interesting look to this one. Now, an idea that you know, you might want to think about, if you don't wear barrettes too much, but you want to wear them every so often, but don't know what to do with them other times, you could go ahead and on the side that doesn't have the clasp, because you don't want it punching open, is you could string some beading wire through this and put beads coming up on either side, and you could make this into a pendant necklace. So just a thought. You could do the same thing for something like this too. But that's if you didn't feel like making it into a barrette or wearing it for a barrette. But hey, I think these are fun. Anyway, bead soup. That was our project today, bead soup. And, you know, here are three examples. You take something that, you know, you have a bunch of, but you don't know what to do with them, and you create something lovely. At least I think so. Hey, by the way, which one do you like best? Do you like the pink? Do you like the purple? Or do you like the green one the best? Leave a comment and let me know. I'm just curious as to which one you think is your favorite. Anyway, I encourage you to go out and make your own bead soup and make your own bead embroidery project. And just have fun. That's the whole thing. Just have fun. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'd love to see you over at my website, beadedjewelrydiva.com. Meanwhile, this is Gail signing out, saying have yourself a great day and keep on beading. Bye.